You know how some people might tell you something, and then they come back moments later, and then they're like, hey, come here, you know that one thing, that I told you? Yeah? Well, I told you so. Now, I'm not trying to say this, but I'm pretty much telling you, I told you so. Now, here's what I told you so. Because in the last, if you go back and you watch my previous video, which I uploaded about the Supreme Court justice, I pretty much told you that if you observe both the Democrats and the Republicans, the left and the right, what you will find is that these two are actually on the same road, just on different sides, but that road leads directly to Rome. I said that the Democrats, they are going, their path, their agenda leads to the Vatican, and I also mentioned that the Republicans, their path also leads to the Vatican. And what are the chances of this? In his recent 2019 State of the Union speech, President Trump made a very interesting statement, which I thought he probably would not, I wouldn't hear that anytime soon, but he mentioned a statement, he made a statement that pointed directly to the Vatican. Everything is almost like he's speaking prophetic. It's biblical prophecy that is being fulfilled.
Boldly and bravely into the next chapter of this great American adventure. But we must reject the politics of revenge, resistance, and retribution, and embrace the boundless potential of cooperation, compromise, and the common good. Together, we can break decades of political stalemate. We can bridge old divisions, heal old wounds, build new coalitions, forge new solutions, and unlock the extraordinary promise.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, this statement which Trump made with regards to mentioning the common good, which thus resulted in Nancy Pelosi standing up and clapping the way that she did, in such a way that her clap went viral all over the internet. This phrase known as the common good, these are words that are tied directly to the Vatican. This has nothing to do with nationalism. That's one thing that all of you need to understand, is the words common good have nothing to do with nationalism. And I say that for a reason, because if the common good theology, or this common good, stems from the Vatican, from the Roman Catholic Church, then that means that it has no intentions of favoring nationalism by any means, but rather it is globalism. Why? Because Pope Francis is an advocate for globalization, oneness, unity, togetherness, building bridges. These bridges that he is trying to build are bridges that brings the governments together. Ultimately, when you have the leaders come together, they are of one mind, which means that when they come together of one mind, they are then going to give their authority and give their honor and power to who? To the beast, to the papacy. Think about this. How powerful is the Pope? Only he can be able to go to every single world leader, and when he demands to meet with these leaders, they cannot say no. They all comply and they say, yes, come. And they dress in black along with their wives, while the Pope is the only one dressed in white. This teaching of the common good is actually a teaching that is bringing the world together under the leadership of the papacy. Remember that statement in the last video which I mentioned in the Supreme Court video. I said, all roads lead to Rome.
The papacy is an advocate of the common good. In fact, when you hear these words such as common good, commonwealth, all these things actually are a part of the agenda of the Vatican. The common good was introduced by the Vatican. So when Pope Francis is speaking to the world leaders, he's telling them that they need to push this agenda of oneness, of unity, of the common good, to protect our common home.
Headline reads the following: Trump urges parties to work for the common good. It says he urged the nation to, quote-unquote, break decades of political stalemate, bridge old divisions, heal old wounds, build new coalitions, forge new solutions, and unlock the extraordinary promise of America's future, end quote.
When you build a bridge, what do? You create a unity between two people or two types of individuals, or you build a bridge that basically unites people together. That's the agenda of oneness, the agenda of unity. And then it says heal old wounds. Now where does that sound familiar? When you hear the words heal old wounds, that's right, in the book of Revelation and actually in the book of Daniel. Oh, who was the one that actually received the immortal wound? In fact, let's look at the Bible for this, because the Bible tells us that there was a certain power which had one of its heads wounded to death. And then that deadly wound was healed. And after the healing of the wound, the nations, the world basically wondered after this beast. Which beast is this? Let's go to Revelation again, and let's just look at this. It's found in Revelation 13. Observe the following Bible passage.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. The 42 months referred to here in Revelation, this talks about the 1260 prophetic days that were given even unto the beast. Again, this beast that came up out of the sea that has the 7 heads and 10 horns, this beast is the papacy. The papacy received full power by 538 AD, and this was given to him by the pagan Roman Empire. The Roman government gave power and authority to the papacy. Pagan Rome is also referred to as the dragon. The dragon also is the devil and Satan. The devil, working through the pagan Roman government, gave power and authority to the Vatican, to the papacy, thus making it both a political and a religious power. It continued for 42 prophetic months. Convert the 42 months into days, it is 1260 days. The Bible does liken one prophetic day to being one literal year, which means that the 42 months or 1260 days equates to 1260 literal years. This is the period in world history known as the Dark Ages. It began from 538 AD and it continued until 1798 AD. In 1798 AD, the papacy received its deadly wound.
The papacy ruled from 538 AD until 1798 AD, when, during the French Revolution, Napoleon Bonaparte, he, wanting to capture and conquer all of Europe and unite all of Europe under the leadership and rulership of France, he sent his general Berthier to capture the one man whom he saw as a threat to him, or who stood in his way, and that man was the Pope. By capturing the Pope in 1798, through his general Berthier, Alexander was able to put, or I mean not Alexander, but Napoleon Bonaparte was able to put an end momentarily to the papacy. And the papacy received a lethal wound.
Since the papacy received its deadly wound in 1798, it lost its political power and religious influence until 1929, when Mussolini gave power back to the Vatican to operate as an independent state. And you know what's ironic? The newspaper that was printed in 1929 mentioned the following. It said, Mussolini and Gasperi sign historic Roman pact, heal wound of many years. This, ladies and gentlemen, is very significant, because if you actually look at the date, this was signed in 1929 February. Now I find this very significant because it was in February of 1929 that it was mentioned, and it was also printed on the newsletters, that a wound was healed. Because in February of 2019, President Trump, in his State of the Union address, is urging the leaders to heal old wounds. Now here's what I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen. You see, this I'm going to expand it at a different segment, a different video all by itself, because there's quite a bit that needs to be covered with this subject. And ladies and gentlemen, let me give you guys a heads up. World history is repeating itself once again. There are parallels, exact parallels, between 1929 and 2019, because in that same year, shortly after the Vatican received its power and the wound was healed, another event happened, a major event which led to a Great Depression. And this is actually bound to happen again. And in fact, the same things that happened in the past, the same signs are being seen now. All I will say is be sure to subscribe and keep on the lookout, because the next video that's going to be uploaded is going to deal with that very same subject, the parallels between the past and the present, and why you need to prepare to start packing your bags. Get off from the cities, get out from those highly densely populated areas, because soon and very soon you're going to see the wrath of God be poured upon these cities. And in fact, you are going to see a lot more criminal activities in these cities. Why? Because when people starve and they enter into a crisis, their true character is revealed. Many people are lost and are in darkness. That darkness is going to consume them, and that darkness is going to want to come out.
Now here's what you got to understand. Pay attention. The papacy actually began to receive a wound before 1798. That wound was in the 1500s when its daughters came out, when the papacy would lose its daughters. It's called the Protestant Reformation. The Protestant Reformation that was initiated by Martin Luther and his 95 Theses that he slammed on the doors of the Catholic Church. Martin Luther and all the other reformers who came, these men, as they initiated this Reformation, they actually caused a wound within the Catholic Church. This church is called the Mother of Harlots for a reason, because she gave birth to many daughters. The Reformation, although it began with a strong Holy Spirit power that was behind it, those who actually sprouted out from the Roman Catholic Church, instead of coming together and actually continuing their path in Scripture, they still kept wandering around with the mark of the papacy. The mark of the papacy, the Roman Catholic Church, they admit with their own mouths that Sunday is their mark of authority. That is their evidence of saying that they have authority over the Bible. They said the church is above the Bible, and this transference of Sabbath observance from Saturday to Sunday is proof of that fact. Sunday is their mark of authority. And all those other churches that sprouted, that came out from the Vatican or from the Roman Catholic Church, should I say, and they have carried the mark of the papacy, they are daughters of the papacy. They are daughters of the Roman Catholic Church. So them being daughters of the Roman Catholic Church, they are harlots by definition. And that's what the Bible says. this Roman Catholic Church, it committed an abomination by slaughtering God's children for the 42 months, for the 1,260 years. That's called the Dark Ages in history. The medieval times is known as the Dark Ages. Now, so far so good. Okay, good. Here's what you have to understand. When Trump made this statement about basically coming together for the common good and also the healing of old wounds, he is actually addressing about, because here's the thing, Trump is on the verge of uniting, making the full completion of uniting both church and state. When church and state fully intermingles itself, that means that a full image has been made to the first beast. And when that image of the beast is made to the first beast, then that wound would have been completed. Now, since the Reformation began from the 1500s, from 1517, when did it end? Well, it ended on October 31st, 2017, exactly 500 years from its beginning. And this 500th year anniversary of the Reformation, when it was ended by all these other evangelicals, that marked the beginning of the healing of the wound. First, the Roman Catholic Church lost its daughters in 1517 when Martin Luther began the Reformation. And then after the 1500s, in the late 1700s, the papacy then lost its relationship with the kings. Remember, it was both a political and a religious power. It lost its power as being a political power in 1798, but prior to that, it lost its power also over the other churches, over the other daughter churches. So that's basically what happened, ladies and gentlemen. But now the wound was healed in 2017, and now the second wound is being healed. Even now, as we are here now in 2019, the political wound is now being healed. The kings of the earth are now coming back to the harlot so that they can lay with her. They're sleeping with the Vatican. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is an abomination. What is this common good that that we should all pay attention to? This common good it's an ideology of the Roman Catholic Church or of the papacy, which actually deals with redistribution of wealth, and basically it's a globalist idea that basically pushes a socialist type of an agenda. Now, Trump did make, to be fair, Trump did make the statement that he is a nationalist and not a socialist. So now, and he also did make the statement that America will not be a socialist country. While that may be true, if you observe the march of, or the movement of church and state, that itself is going to push things to the agenda of the papacy. One way or another, you're going to see these things come to pass. Ask yourself this question. What time is it right now? Prophetically speaking, how much time do we have? How late is the hour? Do we still have time to linger around? Do we still have to mess around? Do we still have time to be distracted? No, ladies and gentlemen. You can't afford to be distracted. You can't afford to lose out on salvation now. Because right now, the rapid events, the rapid movements, or the last movements are rapid ones. And what we're seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is the union of church and state is coming quickly than you think. And when trouble is going to come, it's going to come sudden. It's going to come unexpectedly. However, before this trouble comes, we will know that we truly are anticipating something bad to happen, something big to happen. Right now, many of the economists are saying, hey, there's a huge problem coming economically. There's a huge crash that is coming economically that many people are not going to be prepared for. They're already telling you this. If the economy is being forecasted to collapse, which we already know it's going to collapse, all it just needs is a reason as to why. And think about this. Think about this. When Trump takes a big chunk of money from circulation to go and fund the border wall, do you know what that means? That means now that there's X amount of $1 billion that has been removed out from circulation to go and fund the wall. And when you remove this kind of money, this big chunk of money away from circulation, that money that's in circulation gets agitated, it gets disturbed, because that's a huge chunk of money being taken away. Billions of dollars that's being taken away from circulation, which means it's going to affect the economy. There's a good chance that the economy is going to crash during the Trump presidency. And if many of you think, oh no, everything's just going to continue the way it is, oh well, America's going to bounce back, people are just going to, oh of course they're going to bounce back. That's because there's already a new economics, a new system that they already have prepared for when this current fiat currency and everything collapses. And everything else is going digital. We're going digital. Everything is going into a digital society, including digital currency. Think about this. How much time do you have prophetically speaking? You don't have much time. So now is the time for all of us to make peace with the Lord, and now is the time for us to make things right with the Lord, because probation is closing. I keep saying it over and over and over again. I'm going to keep saying it over and over again, let you know that probation is closing, because if you don't realize that probation is closing, then you are going to be asleep. So we all need to stay awake. I need to also stay awake myself. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Controversy 7. Thank you for tuning in and for joining me. You take good care of yourselves. If you haven't already subscribed, be sure to subscribe and turn your bell notifications on. Other than that, I'm not going to hold you off. You take good care of yourselves, be safe, and I'll see you guys next time.